a time before the internet delivered oddities at your fingertips, sideshows were the gateway to the extraordinary. These performers, with their extraordinary characteristics, walked a tightrope between ridicule and admiration. But were these performers truly freaks, or were they simply individuals celebrating their unique features? Join us on a journey through the peculiar and fascinating world of sideshows, where we'll meet 50 circus freaks that actually existed. Prepare to be entertained, and perhaps even to have your perspective challenged. Number 50. Millie and Christine McCoy. In the 1800s, two remarkable sisters named Millie and Christine McCoy captured hearts and attention as the two-headed nightingale. Conjoined at birth and sharing some vital organs, their lives were an extraordinary journey. Born into slavery in 1852, they were just 10 months old when they were separated from their parents and sold to a showman named James P. Smith. In an unexpected twist, Smith didn't exploit them solely for their unique physical condition. Recognizing their potential, he saw two bright young minds and arranged for their education, including lessons in music and dance. Millie and Christine blossomed under Smith's care. Their beautiful voices earned them the Nightingale nickname, and they developed a talent for piano as well. Their synchronized performances on stage captivated audiences. For over 3 decades, they traveled the world, even joining the legendary P.T. Barnum's Circus for a while. Their hard work and talent brought them financial security, amassing a small fortune. However, fate struck a cruel blow. A fire ravaged their belongings, leaving them with little. Sadly, their later years were marked by financial hardship. Despite their struggles, the sisters continued to share a deep bond until their untimely death from tuberculosis at age 61. Number 49. Franchesco Lentini. Franchesco Lentini's story is a fascinating anomaly. Though technically born conjoined, his twin wasn't the kind you might expect. Unlike the McCoy sisters, fused at the hip and sharing organs, Franchesco was attached at the spine to a malformed leg and a set of genitals. With 12 normal siblings, Francesco's birth was a shock, and the midwife who delivered him was said to be so scared she fled the room. Doctors examined Francesco, but surgery to separate him from his incomplete twin was deemed too risky. Left with this unique physical makeup, Francesco faced challenges. He was often teased for his appearance. Yet, a turning point came when he visited a children's institution and saw those with even greater difficulties. This experience sparked a determination in him. He would not be defined by his circumstances, but would choose happiness. This resolve propelled him onto a rather unconventional career path. For 4 decades, he toured with prestigious circuses like Barnum's and Coney Island. His positive attitude and unique physique earned him immense respect. Francesco's stage presence was such a hit that he garnered the prestigious title of the King within the circus community. Number 48. CRRA Farini. Bearded ladies have become iconic figures in the world of circus and sideshow, as highlighted by the film The Greatest Showman, with its catchy sing-along performances. One of the most fascinating stories of a bearded woman is that of CRRA Farini, a Laotian woman born with hypertrichosis, a condition that causes excessive hair growth. CRRA was exhibited publicly from the late 19th century into the early 20th century, often billed as a missing link in Darwinian evolution. Her face was thickly covered with hair, extending down to her eyebrows, and a thinner layer of hair covered the rest of her body. Despite advertising posters portraying her as a loincloth-clad savage, CRRA often appeared dressed as a middle-class Victorian child during her performances, with her hairy arms and legs exposed. Newspaper accounts of the time highlighted her perfect command of English and her good manners, contrasting sharply with the primitive image promoted in her publicity. CRRA continued to perform into the 1920s, captivating audiences with her unique appearance and charm. She lived in Brooklyn and, sadly, passed away from influenza in 1926. Her story remains a compelling example of how sideshow performers navigated public perception and personal identity. Number 47. Violetta. Violetta was born with tetra amelia syndrome, a rare condition that left her without arms or legs. Despite this, she displayed an incredible level of dexterity, often surprising those around her with her abilities. She could comb her own hair and sew items together, even threading the needle by herself. Apart from her missing limbs, Violetta was otherwise healthy, and according to some, her senses were even more acute than those of an average person. Occasionally, Violetta toured under the title Beautiful Armless and Legless Venus, showcasing her flawless torso, which doctors had examined and declared to be without any blemishes. After her performances, a nurse would carry her around, offering the audience a chance to touch her if they wished. This part of the show was meant to highlight her extraordinary physique, but it sometimes led to unwanted advances. Some bold young men, and occasionally women, would try to kiss her. When this happened, Violetta had a unique way of handling the situation. She would jab them in the chin with her shoulder, a move that was sometimes so forceful it brought tears to their eyes. Number 46. Sarah Bartman. Sarah Bartman, a member of the Khoikhoi tribe in South Africa, lived during the 18th and 19th centuries. Her life took a tragic turn during her betrothal ceremony, when European soldiers ambushed her community, leaving her an orphan and a widow at the tender age of 16. Following this devastating event, she was taken to Cape Town, where she worked as a domestic servant. 5 years later, Bartman was taken to England. There, her life changed dramatically due to her notably ample hindquarters, which drew significant attention. For 4 years, she was exhibited half-naked, her body becoming a spectacle for the curious English public. Her situation worsened when she was moved to France, where she was displayed under the name Hottentot Venus. In France, she was kept almost completely naked except for a loincloth. Bartman's life ended tragically at the age of 26. After her death, her body was further desecrated. Her brain and genitalia were removed and put on display in a museum, where they remained until 1974. It took the persistent efforts of Nelson Mandela over 8 years to finally secure the return of her remains to South Africa in 2002, giving her a dignified resting place. Number 45. The Colorado Brothers. The Colorado brothers, Lazarus and Johannes Baptista, are among the earliest recorded examples of conjoined twins, living during the early 17th century. Their unique condition brought them significant fame and fortune as they toured across Europe, drawing curious crowds wherever they went. Their notoriety was such that they even had an audience with King Charles I and Queen Henrietta, highlighting the extent of their celebrity. Lazarus was fully functional and lived a relatively normal life, even fathering several children. However, his brother Johannes was a parasitic twin, protruding from Lazarus's torso. Johannes had limited movement and could not communicate, often covered by Lazarus with a cloak or blanket when they were not on display. In a bizarre twist of fate, Johannes's condition once saved Lazarus's life. Historian Henri Sauval, who interviewed Lazarus many times, recounted an incident where Lazarus killed a man after being taunted. Despite his crime, the court was forced to release him. They couldn't bring themselves to execute Lazarus because doing so would mean killing Johannes, an innocent and helpless man. This peculiar situation ensured Lazarus's survival, showcasing the unique bond and unusual fate of the Colorado brothers. Number 44. Waldo the Great. Did you know that the word geek has its roots in sideshow history? Traditionally, a geek was a performer who would eat bizarre or unexpected things. Waldo's talent, however, was unique, and certainly earned him the title of Great. Waldo wasn't your typical geek because he didn't actually eat the items he swallowed. Instead, he would swallow and then regurgitate them, including live animals. Before swallowing fish and frogs, he would first drink copious amounts of water, so the animals would have something to swim in while inside him. His act was so shocking that women in the audience often fainted when he swallowed and regurgitated live mice. To prove the authenticity of his act, Waldo would invite skeptical audience members on stage, swallow their watch, and then let them listen to the ticking emanating from his belly. What made Waldo even more fascinating was the contrast between his disgusting feats and his bespectacled, clean-cut appearance. This juxtaposition added an extra layer of intrigue to his performances, making him a standout figure in the world of sideshow entertainment. Number 43. Isaac W. Sprag. Isaac W. Sprag had a typical childhood until the age of 12, when he began to lose significant amounts of weight. This rapid and unexplained weight loss made it difficult for him to work as he grew older due to severe malnourishment. As an adult, Sprag joined a small circus, and less than a year later, he began performing with P.T. Barnum under the moniker The Human Skeleton. His career with Barnum was marked by a narrow escape when Barnum's American Museum burned down, but Sprag managed to survive the disaster. During a break from performing, he married and had 3 sons. However, financial pressures eventually drove him back to work with Barnum. Despite his fame, Sprag struggled with poverty due to his gambling addiction. To maintain his fragile health, he carried a flask of milk around his neck, which he frequently sipped to stay conscious. Tragically, Sprag died in 1887, destitute and weakened by his condition. At the time of his death, he weighed just over 18 kilograms. In hopes of finding answers to his extreme thinness, Sprag donated his body to science. Number 42. George Washington Morrison Nutt. In 1862, P.T. Barnum came across George Washington Morrison Nutt, a young performer in a small sideshow, while touring the English countryside. Barnum was appalled by the poor treatment Nutt received from his manager. According to Barnum, he offered Nutt's parents $30,000 to employ the boy for 3 to 5 years, ensuring that Nutt would also receive a proper education during this time. Nutt soon became a prominent performer under Barnum's management, known for his small stature and lively presence. However, his time with Barnum was marked by a fierce rivalry with General Tom Thumb, another of Barnum's well-known miniature performers. Both Nutt and Thumb were infatuated with Lavinia Warren, a fellow circus dwarf. Their competition for her affection was intense, and even led to a physical altercation. Nutt was deeply upset when Lavinia Warren chose Tom Thumb over him, leading him to avoid romantic relationships for years. Despite this personal turmoil, Nutt's career flourished under Barnum's guidance, showcasing his talents and securing his place in the world of entertainment. Number 41. Priscilla Laur. Werewolves have been a part of folklore for centuries, but for Priscilla Laur, hypertrichosis, often called werewolf syndrome, was a real and challenging condition. Born in Puerto Rico in 1911, Laur's condition caused her to have excessive hair growth and 2 rows of teeth. After her father passed away, she was adopted by an American man who became increasingly frustrated with the nickname, the Monkey Girl, given to her by the public. During a circus tour, Laur met Emmett Bajano, a man suffering from ichthyosis, a condition that made his skin tough and scaly. Their shared experiences in the sideshow world brought them close, and they eventually eloped. The couple became known as the world's strangest married couple and toured together happily for many years. Priscilla occasionally appeared on The Jerry Springer Show, where she would sometimes sing, showcasing her talents beyond her physical appearance. After retiring from performing, Laur had to shave every 3 days to manage her hair growth due to her condition. Priscilla and Emmett enjoyed a long and loving marriage, remaining together until Emmett's death in 1995, nearly 60 years after they first married. Number 40. Stefan Bowski. Stefan Bowski, better known by his stage name Lionel the Lion-Faced Man, was born in Poland in 1890 with a rare condition that caused his entire body to be covered in hair about 1 inch long. His mother believed this unusual hair growth was caused by an incident during her pregnancy when his father was mauled by a lion. This belief led her to think that the traumatic event had marked her son. Unfortunately, she considered Stefan an abomination and gave him up when he was just 4 years old. Stefan spent most of his life on tour, becoming a well-known performer with the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. He was also a regular attraction at Coney Island, captivating audiences with his unique appearance. Unlike the rest of his body, only his palms and the soles of his feet were hairless, while the hair on the rest of his body grew between 10 and 20 centimeters. In his early 30s, Stefan retired from his career as a public performer and moved back to Germany. He lived out the remainder of his life there, passing away in 1932. Number 39. Schlitzie. Schlitzie's life was marked by extraordinary challenges and resilience. Standing at just 122 centimeters tall, and with a mental age that never progressed beyond that of a 3-year-old, Schlitzie faced vulnerabilities from the moment he was born. His true parentage and birth name remain unknown, shrouded in mystery. Born with microcephaly, a condition that gives the appearance of an unusually small skull, Schlitzie was nicknamed Pinhead. He struggled to form complete sentences and often wore girls' dresses during his tours with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, where he captivated audiences with his unique presence. After decades in the spotlight, Schlitzie's life took a tragic turn in the 1960s when his caretakers passed away. He was left alone in a mental hospital, isolated and longing for the stage where he had found joy. Fortunately, a fellow sideshow performer recognized Schlitzie's need to perform and intervened. Schlitzie was released from the hospital and returned to entertaining audiences until his passing in 1971 at the age of 70. Number 38. Myrtle Corbin. Myrtle Corbin had a rare condition known as dipygus. This meant she had 2 pelvises side by side, resulting in 4 legs. The inner pair of legs was small and too weak to be functional, but they added to her unique appearance. Myrtle's condition made her a natural fit for sideshows, and she spent a part of her life touring and showcasing her unusual anatomy to curious audiences. At the age of 19, Myrtle's life took a significant turn when she married a doctor named Clinton Bicknell in 1887. Despite her physical challenges, Myrtle lived a fulfilling personal life. She and Clinton had 5 children together, a fact that fascinated many. It was said, though not confirmed, that 3 of her children were born from one pelvis and 2 from the other. Number 37. Jack Earl. Jack Earl, a man who towered over most at a staggering 8 feet 6 inches at the time of his passing, had a surprisingly tiny beginning. At birth, he weighed only 1.8 kilograms. Doctors feared he would not survive and never imagined he would become one of the tallest men in the world. Born Jacob Elric, Jack was a small child until his 7th birthday, when he began a remarkable growth spurt. By the age of 10, he was over 6 feet tall due to acromegalic gigantism, a condition that causes excessive growth hormone production. Jack's height was so intimidating that he would hide in alleys on his way to school to avoid startling people. His unusual stature made him a target for bullying. He often had to dodge rocks thrown at him by other children. Despite these hardships, Jack Earl's towering presence caught Hollywood's attention, and he was offered many acting roles in short comedy films. What began as a 1-year contract turned into a 14-year career in the entertainment industry. Earl became well known and beloved for his roles, bringing humor and charm to the screen. In 1952, Jack passed away in El Paso, Texas, at the age of 46. Number 36. Annie Jones. When Annie Jones was born in 1865, her parents were shocked to see she had fine hair covering her chin. By the time she was 5 years old, Annie had grown a full mustache and sideburns. Recognizing an opportunity, Annie's mother agreed to have her daughter appear with the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Together, they moved to New York, where Annie was exhibited under the name the Infant Esau, a reference to the biblical figure known for being hairy. A dramatic turn of events occurred when young Annie was kidnapped by a local phrenologist who wanted to use her for his private exhibits. Thankfully, she was found at a church fair in upstate New York and quickly reunited with her mother. Despite the early challenges, Annie continued to perform with the circus and became a well-known attraction. Her unique appearance drew large crowds, making her a star in the sideshow world. Sadly, Annie's life was cut short when she fell ill and passed away at the age of 37. Number 35. Mirand Dejo. For a normal human being, getting pierced by a sword sounds like a recipe for disaster. Imagine the excruciating pain, the gallons of blood, the inevitable trip to the emergency room. But for Mirand Dejo, the invulnerable man, sword piercings were just another Tuesday. Dejo, born in the Netherlands, started life on a seemingly ordinary path. He worked at a design firm until he started experiencing strange paranormal dreams. By age 33, he declared his body invulnerable and left his job to pursue a new path. He began touring bars, demonstrating his extraordinary abilities by allowing people to pierce his torso with sharp objects in exchange for money. Dejo also amazed spectators by swallowing glass and razor blades. Despite his success, Dejo was haunted by his abilities. He believed he was chosen by God to reveal the existence of a higher power and to encourage people to be less materialistic. His mission was not just about the spectacle, but about conveying a spiritual message. In 1948, Dejo took his beliefs to a dangerous extreme. To prove his divinity, he swallowed a large steel needle. This act resulted in the needle needing surgical removal. Tragically, 10 days after the surgery, Dejo died of an aortic rupture at the age of 35. Number 34. Chang and Ang Bunker. The phrase Siamese twins originates from the famous conjoined twin brothers, Chang and Ang Bunker. Born in Siam in 1811, they were connected by a small piece of cartilage at the chest. Despite their livers being fused, they were otherwise independently complete. If born today, a simple surgery could have separated them, allowing each to lead a normal life. In their youth, a Scottish merchant paid their parents to take them on a world tour, where they were exhibited to the public. This brought them international fame. In 1870, Chang's health began to deteriorate, and he turned to heavy drinking. Despite Ang remaining healthy, the bond they shared meant that Chang's ailments impacted both of them. When Chang developed severe bronchitis in 1874, he feared it would spell the end for both brothers. Tragically, Chang passed away one night, and Ang awoke to find his brother dead beside him. Desperate, Ang cried out for an emergency operation to separate them, but 3 hours later, Ang also passed away. They were 62 years old at the time of their death, leaving behind a poignant legacy that continues to fascinate people today. Number 33. Fanny Mills. Fanny Mills wasn't your regular girl. Born in England around 1860, she immigrated to America with her family at a young age, settling in Ohio. Her parents soon realized that Fanny was different. As a child, her feet began to grow uncontrollably. Despite weighing only 115 pounds, her feet eventually reached an incredible 19 inches in length and 7 inches in width. Fanny's condition was caused by Milroy's disease, a rare disorder that leads to severe swelling in the lower limbs. By 1885, Fanny decided to turn her unusual condition into a source of income. With the help of her friend Mary Brown, she traveled to the East Coast, hoping to put herself on display. Showmen eagerly accepted her offer and promoted her as the Ohio Bigfoot Girl, claiming she had the biggest feet on earth. To draw even larger crowds, circus promoters falsely advertised that Fanny's father would pay $5,000 to any man willing to marry her. In reality, her father had already passed away, and Fanny had married Mary Brown's brother William in 1886. For about 7 years, Fanny showcased her enormous feat to curious audiences, sometimes earning up to $150 a week. However, after a miscarriage, her health deteriorated, leading her to retire from the freak show circuit. Number 32. Robert Melvin. The moniker, "The Man with Two Faces," has been applied to various individuals in sideshow history, and Robert Melvin came remarkably close to embodying this title. Born in Missouri on May 9, 1920, Robert was one of 6 children and stood out early due to his unique appearance. His face was significantly affected by neurofibromatosis, a condition characterized by the growth of fibrous tumors, particularly on the right side of his face. Due to his appearance, Robert was initially barred from attending school, but he received a full education nonetheless. Despite the challenges, his outgoing personality endeared him to his small-town neighbors, earning him respect and admiration. Robert never viewed his appearance as a handicap. Instead, he embraced it. In 1949, he found his niche in the sideshow world at Coney Island, where his unique appearance became an asset. He not only became a popular attraction, but also served as the show's accountant, making a comfortable living. Known for his friendly, gentle, and intelligent demeanor, Robert was cherished by his friends, family, and the extended family he found within the sideshow community. Number 31. Minnie Woolsey. Minnie Woolsey, better known as Cuckoo the Bird Girl, was born with Virchow-Seckel syndrome, a rare condition that caused her to have a very small head and a narrow, bird-like face, complete with a long nose and large eyes. She was bald, toothless, and had very poor vision, making her appearance even more striking. Despite these challenges, Minnie found a place in the world of sideshows and circus performances. She gained fame for her unique look and was cast in the 1930 film Freaks. In the movie, she wore a bird costume and performed a memorable dance scene, captivating audiences with her distinctive presence. Minnie's life in the entertainment industry brought her a measure of fame, though it was often overshadowed by the exploitation common in that era. Number 30. Daisy and Violet Hilton. British entertainers. Daisy and Violet Hilton, famous for being conjoined twins, lived a life of both spectacle and struggle until their deaths in 1969. Their obituary poetically noted, "They led a hummingbird's life, color and glitter and always on the move. For a time, they knew glamour and wealth, but both preceded them in death." However, their early years were far from glamorous. The Hilton twins began performing at the tender age of 3, touring Britain. After their primary caregiver, Mary Hilton, passed away, they were handed over to Mary's daughter, Edith Myers, and her husband. Under their new management, the twins endured physical abuse if they did not comply with demands. Despite their popularity and drawing large crowds, Daisy and Violet never saw any of the money they earned. In a bid for freedom, the twins eventually sued their former managers for $100,000 in damages and won. This legal victory allowed them to take control of their own lives. They spent the latter half of their lives touring in burlesque shows, experiencing a mixture of independence and continued public fascination. Daisy and Violet passed away just 4 days apart, side by side, at the age of 60. Number 29. Sarah Biffen. If you are a fan of Charles Dickens, the name Sarah Biffen might ring a bell. Born without arms and with non-functioning legs, Sarah's story is one of incredible resilience. She mastered the art of writing, painting, and doing needlework using her mouth. Her talent reached the ears of none other than Charles Dickens, the renowned author. So impressed was he by Sarah's abilities that he immortalized her in 2 of his celebrated novels, Martin Chuzzlewit and Nicholas Nickleby. Sarah toured with a man named Emmanuel Dukes, who recognized her unique gift and helped her share it with the world. Together, they traveled to fairs and circuses, captivating audiences with Sarah's demonstrations. People, eager to witness her incredible talent, paid a fee to see her draw, sew, and even create beautiful paintings, all using only her mouth. The admiration for her work extended beyond mere observation. Sarah's creations were in such high demand that she sold them for a price of 3 guineas each, a significant sum in those days. Number 28. William Hutchings. William Hutchings, famously known as the Boy Lightning Calculator, was a mathematical prodigy promoted by P.T. Barnum. He astonished audiences by performing complex equations and effortlessly adding, subtracting, and multiplying large numbers without using a pencil. Hutchings worked at Barnum's American Museum, until it burned down for the second time in 1868. In 1872, he even performed his incredible calculations at the White House for President Ulysses S. Grant, further cementing his fame. After his days in the sideshow, Hutchings transitioned to a different stage. He authored a book teaching others how to perform the same impressive calculations that had made him famous. Number 27. Frank Richards. In the early 1900s, an American man named Frank Richards discovered an extraordinary talent while fighting in World War I. He could withstand hard punches to his belly without flinching. Realizing the uniqueness of his ability, Frank joined the vaudeville comedy circuit upon returning from the war. He started charging people to try and punch him in the stomach. His act quickly became a hit as crowds gathered to take their best shot at him. Yet no matter who hit him, Frank remained unfazed. Believing his audience might not be hitting hard enough, he invited heavyweight boxers, including world champion Jess Willard, to take a swing. Even they couldn't faze him. Frank escalated his performances by allowing people to jump on his belly and later endure strikes from an 18-pound sledgehammer, still without any effect. Taking it a step further, he had a 100-pound cannonball fired directly at his stomach during his acts. Remarkably, Frank Richards remained perfectly fine, turning his unique resilience into a legendary vaudeville act. Number 26. Anna Swan. Imagine a 4-year-old towering over most adults at 4.5 feet tall. That was Anna Swan, a remarkable woman whose height defied the norm. By the age of 10, she had already reached a staggering 6 feet 1 inch, a clear indication of the extraordinary growth to come. As an adult, Anna stood tall at an impressive 7 feet 5 inch, a sight that surely turned heads wherever she went. At 17, she began working with the famous showman P.T. Barnum. She lived in Barnum's American Museum in New York City, and on July 13, 1865, she faced a life-threatening ordeal when the museum caught fire. The flames engulfed the stairs, making them impassable, and she was too large to escape through a window. At that time, she weighed 159 kilograms. Fortunately, with the help of others, she managed to escape safely. After this harrowing experience, Swan continued her career by touring the western United States and later Europe, where she even performed before Queen Victoria. Swan's extraordinary life also included a marriage to Martin Van Buren Bates, another exceptionally tall person. Together, they formed a remarkable couple, both in height and in the fascinating lives they led. Number 25. Grady Styles. Grady Styles' story is a complex one, marked by both remarkable physical difference and tragic personal failings. Born with ectrodactyly, a condition that fused his fingers and toes into an appearance some called lobster-like, Grady adapted and used his unique physique to carve a niche in the world of sideshows. Known on stage as Lobster Boy, he used a wheelchair and developed impressive upper body strength. However, his strength was overshadowed by his struggles with alcoholism and a violent temper, making him feared by his family and others. In 1978, Styles' anger reached a tragic peak when he shot and killed his oldest daughter's fiancé. Despite confessing to the murder, he received only 15 years probation because prisons were not equipped to handle someone with his condition. By 1992, his abusive behavior had become unbearable for his wife, Mary Teresa. Desperate for an escape, she hired a 17-year-old sideshow performer to kill him. In 1993, Styles was murdered by this teenage assassin, ending his notorious and troubled life. Number 24. Fedor Jeffu. Fedor Jeffu, famously known as Jojo the Dog-Faced Boy, was a renowned freak show performer from Russia. He was brought to the United States at the age of 16 by the famous showman P.T. Barnum. Born with hereditary hypertrichosis, a condition that causes excessive hair growth all over the body, Jeffu became a spectacle in Barnum's shows. Barnum marketed Jeffu as a dog-faced boy and spun a wild tale about how Jeffu and his father, who shared the same condition, were captured by a hunter while living in a cave. According to Barnum, Jeffu was gentle, while his father was a savage who could not be tamed and was ultimately killed by the hunter. In reality, Jeffu's father was also a sideshow performer who tragically drank himself to death. Jeffu was billed as the most prodigious paragon of all prodigies secured by P.T. Barnum in over 50 years. Despite his appearance, he was highly intelligent, speaking multiple languages. However, he was forced to bark like a dog on stage as part of his act. Tragically, Jeffu died of pneumonia at the age of 35 in 1904. His death was mourned by fans and fellow performers across the United States. Number 23. Prince Randian. He went by many names, including the Snake Man, the Human Torso, and the Human Caterpillar. No matter the name, When the curtain opened and the spotlight fell on Prince Randian, the audience was always unprepared for what they saw. Standing under 3 feet tall, Prince Randian was an astonishing sight. His arms were mere nubs ending at the shoulders, and his legs were almost entirely non-existent. Dressed in a one-piece red and white striped suit, he resembled a caterpillar more than a man. P.T. Barnum, his sideshow employer, capitalized on this unique appearance. Throughout his sideshow career, Randian's act included wiggling about the stage and performing tricks such as lighting a cigarette and painting using only his mouth. These feats amazed and entertained audiences. After more than 40 years of performing, Prince Randian died on December 19, 1934, just hours after giving his final performance. He succumbed to a heart attack at the age of 63. Number 22. Johnny Eck. In August 1911, John and Amelia Eckhart welcomed twin sons, Johnny and Robert. While Robert appeared normal, Johnny was born without legs, snapped off at the waist, astonishing his parents and doctors. Despite his condition, Johnny didn't let it slow him down. He learned to walk on his hands efficiently long before his twin could stand and walk on his legs. Growing up, Johnny's independence and agility were remarkable. In 1923, Johnny and Robert caught the eye of John McCaslin, a magic show performer. Impressed by Johnny's unique abilities, McCaslin convinced the Eckharts to sign a 1-year contract. Johnny and Robert became stars in McCaslin's show, with Johnny earning the nickname the Famous Half-Boy for his astounding performances and antics. While Robert eventually left the limelight, Johnny continued to rise in fame. He performed with numerous carnivals, circuses, and oddity shows, mastering magic and acrobatics. When the popularity of oddity shows waned, Johnny and Robert settled down, pursuing their youthful passions, including painting, music, and woodworking. Number 21. Jenny Lee Snow and Elvira Snow. Best known for their heartwarming roles in the 1932 film Freaks, where they starred alongside the famous pinhead Schlitzie. Jenny Lee Snow and Elvira Snow were staples of the World Circus sideshow at Coney Island. The Snow sisters, who were professionally promoted as Pip and Flip, were born with microcephaly, a neurodevelopmental disorder that results in an abnormally small cranium and brain. Pip had the intelligence of an 18-month-old baby, while her sister Flip was brighter, with the intelligence of a 5-year-old. Despite their condition, they became well-known performers. The sisters were often billed as hailing from the Yucatan, but they were actually from Hartwell, Georgia. Their parents essentially loaned them to various shows to support the family. At their peak, the Pinhead Snow sisters were earning as much as $75 per week, a significant amount, especially during the Great Depression era. Their unique charm and captivating performances made them beloved figures in the sideshow circuit, leaving a lasting legacy in the world of circus entertainment. Number 20. Ronnie and Donnie Gallion. This next pair of circus performers, Ronnie and Donnie Gallion, were born on October 28, 1951, in Dayton, Ohio. Weighing a combined 11 pounds and 11 ounces at birth, they were conjoined at the abdomen. Despite their physical connection, they were quite different in personality. Ronnie was easygoing while Donnie was more temperamental. They even had differing political views. Ronnie stood at 5 feet 8 inches, while Donnie was slightly shorter at 5 feet 5 inches. The brothers spent over 36 years traveling with sideshows, carnivals, and circuses, earning money to support their family. They retired from performing in 1991. Fortunately, Ronnie and Donnie were able to spend the last decade of their lives with their family. Later in life, doctors informed them that they could be safely separated, but the brothers, who had spent their entire lives face-to-face, declined the offer. They preferred to remain together as they had always been. Ronnie and Donnie lived this way until they died from congestive heart failure on July 4, 2020, at the age of 68. They hold the record as the oldest conjoined twins ever recorded. Number 19. Betty Broadbent. Betty Broadbent, also known as the Tattooed Venus, is renowned as the most photographed tattooed lady of the 20th century. Her journey into the world of tattoos began at age 14, while she was working as a nanny in Atlantic City. On the boardwalk, she met Jack Red Cloud, a heavily tattooed man who sparked her fascination with body art. Red Cloud introduced her to his tattoo artist, Charlie Wagner. In 1927, Wagner, along with other tattoo artists like Tony Reinigier, Joe Van Hart, and Red Gibbons, covered Broadbent with a bodysuit of over 565 tattoos. Charlie Wagner, who was friends with circus promoter Clyde Ingalls, helped Broadbent secure a position with the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Broadbent began exhibiting her tattoos with the circus and also trained as a steer rider, performing alongside Tom Mix. In 1937, she took her talents abroad, working for independent circuses in New Zealand and Australia. After returning to the United States, she continued to perform and travel with sideshows until her retirement in 1967. Number 18. Alexander P. Linton. Sword swallowing is a scary and impressive art that few dare to master. One such brave soul was Alexander P. Linton, born in Roscommon, Ireland. By the 1920s, Linton had immigrated to New York and started his career as a magician, performing in places like the Bowery, Huber's Museum, and numerous circuses. By the 1930s, he had honed his craft and specialized in sword swallowing, a skill he claimed was taught to him by his father. Linton's remarkable talent earned him a place in the Guinness World Records for swallowing 4 27-inch blades simultaneously. His performances were not just about the danger of sword swallowing. Linton was also heavily tattooed, adding a unique visual element to his act that fascinated audiences. Throughout his career, Linton is believed to have mentored only 2 younger performers, Bobby Reynolds and Captain Don Leslie, passing on his extraordinary skills to the next generation. His blend of danger, showmanship, and unique appearance made him a standout figure in the world of circus and sideshow entertainment. Number 17. Melvin Burkhart. By all accounts, Melvin Burkhart was a natural show-off. Born in Kentucky in 1907, he entertained people from an early age with his incredible body-contorting abilities. Melvin could suck his stomach in to touch his spine, elongate his neck to an astonishing degree, and make his shoulder blades protrude grotesquely from his back. He also had such control over his facial muscles that he could contort his face into a harlequin mask, smiling on one side and frowning on the other. He debuted his unique talents to the public in the early 1920s with a visiting vaudeville act. His performance was so impressive that promoters quickly invited him to join their troupe. While traveling, Melvin continuously refined his skills and added new feats to his repertoire, including sword swallowing, fire eating, and knife throwing with razor-sharp precision. A unique aspect of his act emerged from his time as a boxer, where his nose and nasal cartilage were severely damaged. This injury allowed him to hammer large nails into his nose, a feat that became known as the human blockhead. This extraordinary act left audiences in awe and solidified Melvin's place in sideshow history. Number 16. Grace McDaniels. Winning the Ugliest Woman contest might seem like a cruel punchline, but for Grace McDaniels, it was a turning point. Born in 1888 on a farm near Numa, Iowa, Grace seemed like any other child with perfectly ordinary parents. However, life took an unexpected turn due to a condition called Sturge-Weber syndrome. This rare genetic condition caused a large, port wine-colored birthmark on her face to thicken and distort her features over time. Her condition worsened with age, and by the time of her death, the fold of skin on her face hung more than 4 inches below her chin, making it difficult for her to speak. After winning an Ugliest Woman contest in 1935, Grace joined up with F.W. Miller's sideshow. Sensitive about her appearance, Grace initially tried to conceal her disfigurement with makeup, and later wore a veil as her condition deteriorated. She despised being called a freak and hated the title World's Ugliest Woman used to advertise her shows. However, as she began to earn a good living from the sideshow, Grace grew more comfortable with her condition and her role. She even managed to persuade promoters to refer to her by a different moniker, Grace McDaniels, the mule-faced woman. Number 15. Leonard Trask. Some human oddities are made, not born. Leonard Trask's story is a painful example of this. Born on June 30th, 1805 in Hartford, Maine, Trask suffered a severe neck injury in his 20s after being thrown from his horse. Despite the injury, he continued working as a farmhand until his spine began to bow, eventually forcing his chin into his chest permanently. Trask's condition worsened with subsequent injuries. In 1840, he took a nasty fall, and in 1853, he was thrown from his wagon, breaking 4 ribs and his collarbone. On May 24, 1858, he was involved in a high-speed coach accident, which resulted in a 5-inch gash on his head. Although not expected to survive, Trask did, but his condition became even more disabling. Throughout his adult life, Trask's wife cared for him, and despite his physical limitations, they had 7 children together. Unable to work, Trask eventually turned his status as a medical curiosity into a small career as a human oddity attraction to the general public. Number 14. Robert Huddleston. For many years, the world only knew Robert Huddleston as the Pony Boy, from astounding images of his unusual posture. Huddleston likely suffered from an advanced form of congenital genu recurvatum, also known as back knee deformity. This condition prevented him from standing erect or using crutches, so he moved about exclusively on all 4s. despite what seemed like a crippling affliction, Huddleston led a remarkably active life and had an incredible work ethic. In his early adulthood, Huddleston worked as a logging teamster, hauling trees and lumber over 15 miles a day while attached to a wagon. This heavy labor built his arm and shoulder strength to legendary levels among his peers. Huddleston became known as the Pony Boy after the war when he showcased his unique physical condition with a small carnival in Texas. The stint was incredibly successful, likely due to his exceptional work ethic, and led to more opportunities with larger organizations. Eventually, Huddleston toured all of North America with the Tom Mix Circus. His act primarily featured displays of strength combined with unique flexibility, including a trick where he could throw his right leg over his shoulder like a bale of wood. Number 13. George and Willie Muse. Born black and albino in the Jim Crow South, brothers George and Willie Muse faced a life of extraordinary hardship and exploitation. In 1899, when George was just 6 and Willie was 9, they were kidnapped from their sharecropping community in Roanoke, Virginia. Their abductor, a freak hunter named James Herman Candy Shelton, planned to force them into the circus. Shelton made the brothers grow out their hair into dreadlocks and branded them as the Men from Mars, among other degrading nicknames. Despite becoming popular performers, George and Willie received only the bare necessities. Their white managers pocketed all the earnings, reaping substantial profits from the brothers' humiliation. Adding to their misery, George and Willie were falsely told that their mother, Harriet Muse, had died. This lie was intended to prevent them from trying to escape or thinking about their family. Meanwhile, Harriet tirelessly fought to find and free her sons, facing the dual obstacles of a racist society and indifferent authorities who ignored her pleas. In an incredible turn of events, Harriet managed to attend one of their performances in 1920. By then, the brothers were in their mid-30s. They immediately recognized their mother in the crowd, leading to an emotional reunion. George and Willie were finally freed from the circus and returned home to be with their family once again. The brothers went to work under slightly better conditions until they retired in the mid-1950s. Number 12. Martin Joe Lorello. Martin Joe Lorello was a sideshow marvel known by several intriguing names like the Man with the Revolving Head or the Human Owl. His unique ability stemmed from a rare condition, a twisted spine that allowed his head to rotate a full 180 degrees. This remarkable feat made his spine resemble a question mark when his head was turned backward. Despite this astonishing talent, Martin faced challenges. When he turned his head around, he couldn't breathe, though he could still drink. Originally from Germany, Martin immigrated to America in 1921, seeking opportunities in the entertainment industry. He quickly found his niche in sideshows, captivating audiences with his extraordinary ability. He performed with renowned shows such as Ripley's Believe It or Not, Ringling Brothers, and Barnum and Bailey. Besides his head-turning act, Martin showcased his versatility by training dogs to perform acrobatics, adding to his allure as a performer. Martin's final documented appearance was on the television show You Asked For It on March 24, 1952. Tragically, he passed away from a heart attack in 1955 at the age of 70. Number 11. Ernie Defor. Ernie Defor entered the world with a parasitic twin attached to his sternum. This unique condition meant Ernie had a headless, rudimentary body with 2 arms and 2 legs connected to him. He was famously billed as 2 boys with 1 head. His twin, named Len or sometimes Lester, featured 2 well-formed arms, legs, 2 livers, and a set of kidneys. Ernie's short career in show business was primarily with Conklin shows, limited to Canadian appearances. Unfortunately, by 1942, the growth of his twin started to affect Ernie's health. At just 12 years old, doctors decided to amputate Len. This decision was difficult for Ernie, who had developed a strong emotional attachment to his twin. Ernie survived the more than 2-hour operation, but struggled with depression and psychological issues after losing what he considered his brother. Despite these challenges, Ernie eventually came to terms with his loss and managed to live a full and well-adjusted life. He carried on without the companionship of his little brother, adapting to a new chapter in his journey. Number 10. Mignon, the Penguin Lady. Mignon's unique appearance set her apart from the very beginning. Born with a condition called phocomelia, her limbs developed differently. Instead of long, separate fingers, hers fused together, creating a shape remarkably similar to Flipper's. Additionally, her truncated limbs caused her to waddle rather than walk, earning her the stage name, the Penguin Lady. Mignon often wore a 2-piece bathing suit to highlight her unique physique, but she didn't rely on appearance alone. She learned to play the marimba, an African instrument similar to a xylophone, and became highly proficient. Her musical talent led her to be featured in numerous sideshows, as well as major events like the 1933 Century of Progress Exposition in Chicago and the 1939 and 1940 World's Fairs in New York. Life wasn't all about performing for Mignon. She found love twice. Her first marriage was to a man named Largo, who wasn't part of the sideshow world. Together they even had a healthy son. In the 1950s, she married fellow sideshow performer Earl Davis, known as Hoppy the Frog Boy, due to his own physical deformities. The couple performed together for nearly a decade. After retiring in the 1960s, Mignon vanished from the public eye, leaving the final chapters of her life shrouded in mystery. Number 9. The Frog Boy. Otis Jordan, known as the Frog Boy, was caught between being a human torso and an ossified man. He suffered from arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, a rare birth defect causing permanent joint flexion. This deformity left young Otis physically helpless, but he compensated with his intelligence and determination. From an early age, he understood the value of education. He finished school with honors, and later obtained a degree through correspondence courses. In 1963, Otis and a friend visited a freak show at a local fair. Intrigued by the spectacle, Otis decided to approach showman Dick Burnett. Despite his physical limitations, Otis had mastered the use of his mouth and 2 functional fingers, becoming a skilled appliance repairman. His remarkable ability to roll and light a cigarette using only his mouth impressed Burnett, who saw potential in Otis as a performer. Initially uncomfortable with the spotlight, Otis performed in silence, astonishing audiences with his cigarette-rolling act. Over time, he grew more confident and embraced his role as a showman, giving insightful lectures and captivating crowds. His resilience and talent turned what could have been a debilitating condition into a unique and inspiring career. Number 8. Zip the Pinhead. Born in 1842 as William Henry Johnson, Zip was technically a pinhead, but his condition was not as pronounced as many other performers with the same affliction. Despite this, he enjoyed an incredibly long and profitable career. While William was actually born in New Jersey, those who saw him on stage were led to believe he was from another planet. In 1860, P.T. Barnum recruited him and transformed him into Zip. Barnum shaved William's head, leaving only a small tuft of hair on top, and dressed him in a bizarre fur suit. He pitched Zip as the missing link, claiming he was found during a gorilla hunting expedition near the Gambia River in Western Africa. Barnum even suggested that Zip was part of a naked race of men who traveled by climbing tree branches. Zip fully embraced his character. He never spoke during performances, only grunting when addressed or questioned. Legend has it that Barnum paid Zip $1 every day to stay in character and keep quiet, $1 well earned by acting like a complete and total madman. His dedication to his role and the mystique created around him made Zip a captivating and enduring figure in the sideshow world. Number 7. Maximo and Bartola. Maximo and Bartola were the stage names of a brother and sister from El Salvador who gained worldwide fame in the 1850s. Both siblings were born with microcephaly, a condition that caused severe learning difficulties. Their mother entrusted them to a Spanish trader who promised to take them to the Caribbean for a cure. Instead, he sold them into a life of exploitation. Maximo and Bartola eventually became star attractions of P.T. Barnum's famous Circus. Barnum billed them as Aztec children and concocted an elaborate story about their origins. According to this tale, they were discovered in the temple of a lost Mesoamerican city called Iximaya. The story captivated audiences, adding a layer of mystique to their performances. Throughout their careers, Maximo and Bartola were exhibited around the world, drawing large crowds intrigued by their supposed exotic origins and unique appearance. Their story took a surprising turn in 1867 when both performers married each other, a move that led to the end of their careers in show business. Number 6. Joseph Merrick. When Joseph Merrick was around the age of 5, he began to develop abnormal growths, which caused his body and face to become deformed. His early life was marked by tragedy when his mother died when he was 11. His father soon remarried, but Merrick was rejected by both his father and stepmother. This led him to seek refuge with his uncle, Charles Merrick. At the age of 17, Merrick entered the Leicester Union Workhouse. Life in the workhouse was harsh, and in 1884, he sought a different path. He contacted a showman named Sam Torr, proposing to be exhibited due to his unusual appearance. Torr and a group of men managed Merrick, branding him the Elephant Man. After touring the East Midlands, Merrick moved to London and was exhibited in a penny gaff shop by showman Tom Norman. It was here that surgeon Frederick Trevis discovered Merrick and invited him for a physical examination. Trevis presented Merrick at a meeting of the Pathological Society of London in 1884. However, Police soon closed Norman's shop, and Merrick joined Sam Roper's Circus, touring Europe. In Belgium, he was robbed and abandoned by his road manager in Brussels. Despite this, Merrick made his way back to the London hospital, where he was allowed to stay for the rest of his life, finding a measure of peace and stability. Number 5. Al Tomaini. Al Tomaini, once known as the tallest man in the world, claimed a height of 8 feet 5/2 inches, though Guinness World Records listed him at 7 feet 4 inches. Born into a family of 7 children, Al quickly outgrew everyone around him. By the age of 12, he towered over his 6'1" father. His extraordinary height was due to an overactive pituitary gland, a condition discovered through X-rays taken by a physician. Al's remarkable stature led him to a career as a circus giant. In 1936, while working at the Great Lakes Exposition in Chicago, he met Jeannie Tomaini, known as the living half-girl due to being born without legs. Despite their differences, they fell in love and were famously billed as the world's strangest married couple. After years in the circus, Al and Jeannie retired to Giants Camp in Gibsonton, Florida, a community known for its circus performers. There, they enjoyed a quieter life together, continuing to fascinate those who heard their incredible story. Number 4. General Tom Thumb. Charles Sherwood Stratton, born in 1838, experienced an unusual growth pattern. He stopped growing at 6 months old and remained that way until 1847, when he slowly began to grow again. By the time he turned 18, he had reached a height of just 2 feet 8.5 inches. At the tender age of 5, Stratton began his career with the famous showman P.T. Barnum, who dubbed him General Tom Thumb. His performances brought him immense fame and fortune, enabling him to lead a luxurious lifestyle and even form a business partnership with Barnum. In the early 1860s, Stratton met Lavinia Warren, another performer in Barnum's employ. The two fell in love and became engaged. Their wedding, heavily promoted by Barnum, took place on February 10, 1863 at Grace Church, an elegant Episcopal cathedral in New York City. The event was a grand spectacle that drew considerable attention. Stratton continued to grow slightly, ultimately reaching a maximum height of 3.35 feet and weighing 71 pounds. In 1883, he narrowly escaped a tragic hotel fire at the Newhall House in Milwaukee, which claimed the lives of 71 people. Unfortunately, just 6 months later, he suffered a stroke and died at the age of 45. Number 3. James Morris. James Morris, a man born in 19th century New York, possessed an extraordinary talent. He had the ability to stretch his skin to seemingly impossible lengths. This unique condition, later identified as Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, earned him the captivating titles of India Rubber Man and Elastic Skin Wonder. Imagine the awe-inspiring spectacle: Morris pulling the skin around his neck and stretching it all the way over his eyes. Years of entertaining his comrades, even during his military service, built him a reputation that would pave the way for a most unusual career. The legendary Barnum's Circus recognized the unique appeal of the Elastic Skin Wonder and welcomed him into their fold. There, Morris became a star, captivating audiences with his contortions and earning $300 a week at a time when that was a significant amount. However, fame rarely comes without its downsides. Morris's struggle with addictions forced him to supplement his circus income with a more traditional job as a barber. Sadly, the very condition that granted him his extraordinary talent also brought him pain. The constant stretching took a toll on his body, leaving welts and scars on the stretched areas. Number 2. Ella Harper. Ella Harper had an unusual orthopedic condition that caused her knees to bend backward. This rare affliction, which most modern medical professionals would classify as an advanced form of congenital genu recurvatum, made her an extraordinary figure. Due to her uniquely bent knees and her preference for walking on all fours, she earned the nickname the Camel Girl. In 1886, Ella became the star attraction of W. H. Harris's Nickel Plate Circus. Her performances often featured her alongside a camel, creating a striking visual for audiences. Newspapers in every town the circus visited highlighted her appearances, describing her as the most wonderful freak of nature since the creation of the world, and claiming that her counterpart never did exist. Ella's story captivated many, as her condition was both fascinating and bewildering to the public. Despite the challenges posed by her condition, she embraced her role in the circus, becoming a celebrated figure. Number 1. George Lippert. Meet George Lippert, the man with 3 legs and 2 hearts. George's third leg was fully formed, complete with an extra toe, giving him a total of 16 toes. However, this extra leg was not functional. Lippert claimed it had once worked until he fractured it, but whether this is true remains unknown. Throughout his career, the leg hung motionless. Early on, George was billed as the only three-legged man on Earth, and he became quite a sensation. He even performed with P.T. Barnum, attracting large crowds. However, George was reportedly difficult to work with, and no photographs of him exist. In 1898, when another three-legged man emerged, George's popularity quickly waned, and the new performer rose to fame. By the following year, George was penniless and homeless. Fortunately, a florist named Mary Riggs took him in, and they lived together in Salem, Oregon, for 7 years. In the summer of 1906, George Lippert died of tuberculosis at the age of 62. It was only during his autopsy that doctors discovered his second heart, a remarkable anatomical curiosity that added another layer to his unique life story. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.